Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to Iron Anchor Cycles. So hopefully you can see behind me, shop is filled with bikes. We've been cranking away the last couple weeks. Definitely spring has started here in New York, so been real busy with customer work. And I don't know if you recognize the spot where the chopper has been sitting, but it's off the lift because, well, we've got too much to do and had to put that bike to the side. But honestly, we've been getting a little bit off pace with the videos, and I don't want to do that. I kind of really committed to trying to get one of these out almost every week, so I really want to stick with that. We do have some work I possibly could show you on some of these customer bikes, but honestly, the stuff we've been doing the last couple weeks just hasn't struck a chord with me, so I kind of haven't filmed anything and honestly just been too busy to get the camera out and slow down to do that. So I'm taking a little break from the customer work today because we got a lot done so far this week, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a side project on the chopper. So what I'm gonna be doing is getting the carburetor cleaned up and rebuilt. So let me show that to you. All right, so here it is, just as we pulled it off the bike. If you remember kind of how filthy it was, particularly on that side. It's looking good. So rather than, dick around and half-ass this, I'm just gonna tear it completely apart. I'm sure I've got a rebuild kit floating around somewhere for it. So we'll disassemble it, we'll get it cleaned up, and then we'll put it back together. So that's just what we're gonna do in today's video. These are really, really simple carburetors, these CVs. So, you shouldn't be scared about, digging into one of them. I have said it before, I'm by no means a carburetor expert. If this was a McCuney or something like that, I wouldn't even begin to know how to set it up. So CV, right up my alley, and hopefully I would imagine you could probably do it too. So I'm just gonna bring this over to the bench and start getting it taken apart, get our parts laid out, and we'll get this thing cleaned up and reassembled. So that's what we're doing today. All right, I'm here, I'm ready to go. Like I said, I'm just gonna start tearing into this. This has still got, obviously, the overflow line on it, choke on it, so just start stripping parts off the outside, then we'll grab a screwdriver and just start taking apart the top, taking apart the bowl, accelerator pump, all that good stuff. And hopefully in short order, we'll have a pile of parts here and we can start to get everything cleaned up. All right, well, that might be a place where you'd expect to find a whole bunch of junk and varnish and, all kinds of goodies, but this one's actually really clean on the inside, so good news. Well, that was a lot harder to get out than I thought it was going to be. Part of the problem is that I can't find my small roll pin punch, so I started with ruining a pick that'll have to get warrantied when Snap-on Chuck's back next week. And then this was too fat to get any further in there, so I just grabbed an old, crappy, dull drill bit that was the right size and just used that as a punch. But finally got that pin all the way knocked out, so I guess that's at least good. All right, well, got my disassembly done. I think I'm gonna leave this as is with the spring and your throttle control, all this mechanism on here. I think we can clean it without getting into that. I do have a couple of questions, some things I'm not sure about. So while this stuff is cleaning, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do a little research. I will show you what my questions are. Again, not a carb guy, so, You don't know everything when you get into it. The first thing is the throttle doesn't look like it wants to open all the way. Obviously on a, fuel injected bike, your throttle plate will open to be 100% horizontal. I would guess these should do the same, but I'm not seeing that. So I might check another one that's here and kind of see what I can see. So that's one question. The other is, I'm wondering if perhaps maybe this carburetor had some modifications to it. So right off the bat, something you see very, very common is, let me just, where am I looking here? Trying to get my orientation here. Well, I don't know. Oh, right here, sorry. So in here is where I pulled the idle mixture, the fuel air mixture screw out of, or the enrichment screw. I'm not sure what you call it on a CV, but I believe from the factory there's a plug in here that covers this so it can't be adjusted. So you have to kind of like drill or knock that out in order to get to it. It was already done on this one. It is on most carburetors. Somebody usually gets in there before you. So that's one sort of sign. The other is, I'm looking at the diaphragm here, and the needle that was in here, this came down like this, like that. So when I pulled this out of here, I found the needle with this little circlip and these three, I'm never going to be able to show you these on camera. Oh, maybe you can be able to see them. These three tiny little washers were stacked up on this clip. And I know, here, I'll just kind of show you, stick them on here. All right, so it's kind of like that. Now, I know that there was like a kit from Dyna that you can do to modify these, and it involves shimming this needle. Maybe this is that kit. Maybe it comes that way stock. I don't know. Like I said, you're gonna have to do a little bit of research. The only other thing that I have to figure out is I was trying to be as careful as I could while I was taking this all apart, but I found this one, I don't want to drop it, even smaller washer, even smaller than those. It does fit over that, but the outer diameter is a little bit smaller. I just kind of found that sitting here. So it fell out of somewhere. So I have to figure out where that is supposed to go. So for the moment, it doesn't really matter. We're going to proceed with the cleaning. So basically, I'm going to take everything that's metal and I am going to put it in the, I've got a, what do you call it? Electrostatic, whatever kind of cleaner. I'll show it to you. Stick all that in there. Before I do, I'm just going to give everything just a little bit of a spray with carb cleaner just to knock off some of the big junk because it's so dirty. All right. Ultrasonic cleaner, not electrostatic or whatever I said before. So I'm sure you've seen these before. They've gotten really popular because of how cheap they've gotten. Basically, it heats and it sends sound waves through the solution. You can put whatever you want in there and it cleans stuff. So they come in all different sizes, shapes, whatever. I got this one, obviously, if you know Vivor, this is the import China cheapo brand. Just, I bought this, I don't know, maybe over the winter. So maybe 3 or 4 months ago just to try it out. It's pretty cool so far. I'm still trying to perfect what solution works the best in it. I have tried regular degreaser, like this Home Depot stuff. It works really well, but what I have discovered, at least on aluminum, is it discolors it. So I think that degreaser is maybe it's a little corrosive. It's just too harsh, I guess, at least for the aluminum that I tried it on. So definitely don't want to mess up the finish on the carburetor. So what I've got for today, in lieu of anything else, is just a mixture of water and some Dawn soap, which obviously is really mild. It's not going to do a whole ton, but it'll be interesting to see how it cleans this up. I don't know, maybe we can find some spot here as like a before and after, see if it does anything. I mean, this thing is really not that dirty. Once I sprayed it with that carb cleaner, it knocked all that gunk off the outside, but maybe in there, that'll be a good before and after. So There's a bunch of carbon buildup in here. So we'll see what it does. Nothing says we can't try something else if this doesn't get it clean enough. All right, and then I've got all the little parts. I don't know if you can see it here in this little basket ball thing. So I just shoved everything in there. Everything else is sitting in the basket. So I'm going to throw this in here. Water level a little low. Just going to fill it up. Just make sure it's covering. I also think you should probably use distilled water in this when you're mixing cleaning solution. I haven't been doing that, but maybe I should. So I don't know. It's all kind of an experiment. So I guess this is the day of doing things I don't know how to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get this going, and I'll hit this on button, and you'll hear this. This is the most annoying sound in the world. So I'll hit it, as we're wrapping up here, and then I'll put the cover on just so you can kind of see what happens. But I'm going to let this cook. Timer set for 30 minutes. We'll come back and see what it looks like. In the meantime, I'm going to go work on something I do know how to do, which is I've got an M8 cam job to do. So I'm going to keep working on that while this cooks in here, and we'll be right back. So I don't know if you can see down in there, but you see sort of like bubbles starting to form. But that noise really sucks, and that's it doing its thing. So definitely don't want to have to be in the same room with this when it's running. All right, we're back. Timer just went off, so let's see what we got. All right, water looks a little cloudy, a little dirty, nothing crazy. But let's see what we got going on here. See if I can just pick up this whole basket. All right, so all this stuff is obviously going to be hot because it just came out of that hot water. But things are looking pretty good. Let's take a look at our little basket here. So there's a closer look at that. I didn't really show you before, but I'm gonna open it up, try not to lose anything out of here. All right, so there's all of our parts inside there. Let's dump it all out. All right. And then got our spring. All right. So that looks a little better in there. I'm not going to say this did a whole ton. I think the soapy water might be better for maybe even stuff that's more delicate than this. I don't know. But I'm going to just rinse all these off. So we get the soap off, I'll bring them back over to the workbench, and we'll see what additional cleaning we've got to do. We can get in here and scrub a little bit as needed, and we'll start to look at putting this back together. I also did find the answer to some of my questions about some of these parts that were in here, so stay tuned and we'll go through that. Okay, so we're back, and let's talk a little bit about what we've got here. So obviously, some of this stuff is going to get replaced in the rebuild kit, and I sort of started to make a little pile over here. Sorry, it's not really in the camera view. You see that now? Yeah, so some of the gaskets, whatever, the needle, these O-rings, this stuff. So I know that stuff's getting replaced, and then I was kind of looking at what else we have and trying to get into the answers to some of these questions. The first one I had was with regards to this needle, and the answer is yes. This is not original. This is aftermarket. I was right. So your original one would just have like, it would be all one piece, and it would just have like a little flange on the top rather than this E-clip. and these washers that are over here. So I got in touch with Hammer Performance, that's whose engine kit is going in, and I said, hey, so I know what jets we're supposed to be running to start off on this kit, but I've got some other stuff going on in this carburetor. Do you recommend it? Do you not? And they said no, we should get rid of the modifications in this Dynojet kit. So that is gonna be this needle here. It's gonna be these washers. Again, I still don't know where that little kind of gold looking washer came from, so still trying to figure that out. But so this needle, these little washers, the emulsion tube is also not original, and they want me to get rid of this and replace it with an OE one as well. So we're going to put that aside. Another modification I found on the slide here, Dynojet includes, I guess, I don't know if the drill bit comes with it or they just tell you to drill it, but this hole here has been drilled out oversized. Don't want that either. So unfortunately, this is actually kind of an expensive piece. This is going to be like 60 bucks to just replace this. But unfortunately, that's got to go too. And I think though, the guide here I think is fine. That's original, so we're good there. Trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, I'm pretty sure this spring is replaced also, so I'm not sure if the one that comes with the Dynojet kit is okay or not, but since I got to order a bunch of parts, I'm just going to get an OE replacement for that too. And I think that is it. Still have to, like I said, figure out where this little washer came from. Hopefully I figured out. Don't like having extra parts at the end. I looked at the parts diagram for the carb in the parts book, and I couldn't find this washer. So maybe it's an extra piece. Maybe it went along with the needle up there. I don't know. And then now that I'm thinking about it, this little, where is it? Unknown washer. I'm pretty sure on the idle mixture screw, which I believe is this one, there's an O-ring and a spring that go on here. This washer might be a part of this. Does fit on there. This might be part of this assembly. I'm thinking that might be the case. So again, I will check and look it up. So that said, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to keep getting this reassembled today because I don't have a lot of what I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep cleaning up. I'm going to wait for our new parts to come. And, you know, this video is going to be maybe a week later than I thought it was going to be. So in any event, stick around and we'll get to rebuilding and we'll have a fresh new carb ready to go on the bike. All right, well, I started this video as something to do quickly in between other things so we'd have something to post on YouTube, and now I am finally back on this carb project 3 weeks after I started it. We've posted another video in the interim, but I might as well finish up recording this one and put it up just so that you all can see it. So I guess that's by way of saying I finally got my parts in. So I guess two things about the parts I ordered. The first is, I guess I'm glad to say that CV Performance exists. So CV Performance is these guys. If you've got a CV carburetor and you need anything for it, they definitely have it. They're definitely a specialty outfit that can get you what you need. That said, 3 weeks to get a package of little parts is a little bit much. They say they need 7 business days, so more than a week from the time they receive your order to ship it. I kind of sent them a note and was like, that's a little excessive to pack an order and get it shipped out. And they kind of said, well, we're not just packing the order, we're manufacturing the parts. And I find that a little bit hard to believe that they're actually making all this stuff and packaging up and shipping it out. That seems a little suspect to me, but hey, at the end of the day, I got what I needed and we're gonna be able to get this carb put back together, so I guess I should be happy. The only other thing is, you're probably not in the same situation I am. Well, maybe you are, that somebody put a whole bunch of stuff in the carburetor that you then have to take out. A lot of this stuff are not things that you would normally have to buy during a rebuild. All you'd really normally need is, the, seal kit with the needle and, O-rings and that stuff. But I wasn't, thinking a lot about it. I probably could have bought a whole new carburetor for what I spent on these parts. Now, I did get a couple of little upgraded things, like I got some Allen head screws to replace the screws for the bowl that gets stripped all the time. I got a little choke bracket here, which I'm not sure if I'm going to use, but I thought might be nice just once I get the bike put together, seeing how things lay out, that moving the choke over to the carburetor might be nice. I'm not sure where I left off. Like I said, it's been a little while since I started this video, but I know I was asking some questions about what parts I would need to replace and what parts I wouldn't. So I'm gonna go through that now. So I did determine that the, I don't know what they call it, the emulsion tube, sorry. The emulsion tube needed to be replaced, that this is not original. The needle here, this, as I suspected, was not original with those washers. So that all needed to go. I did see that Dynojet in their kit for that does sometimes sell a different spring, and I didn't know how to tell if this was the original one or not, so I decided just to buy another spring and hold them up next to each other. They look pretty similar. This one looks like it's maybe wound a little tighter, so I don't know, maybe they're different, maybe they're not, but I got one. This is CV Performance has two different models of this. This is their premium one, and you can definitely feel the difference between the material here on the old one and here. This rubber is definitely thicker and hopefully, more likely not to get torn over time. So hopefully that's a good little preventative maintenance thing, or maybe it was a waste of money, I don't know. Let's see, what else did we get? Got the emulsion tube, the new needle, which is the N65 original style. And then this is interesting. So I know I had one question I didn't answer in the last segment of this video. I'd said that I'd had those 3 washers that I knew went with this, but then I had this other mysterious little teeny tiny washer that I couldn't identify where it came from. So where that came from was here. So what you've got here, this is the mixture screw. And how this goes is you've got the mixture screw, and then you've got a spring, and then that little teeny washer is in there. I don't know if you can see it, but it protects the O-ring that's on here from the spring. So it's O-ring, little teeny washer, spring. Now it turns out I didn't actually need to figure that out, because I wound up getting an upgrade from CV Performance, which was an upgraded or easy adjust, I should say, mixture screw, so that you can do it by hand from under the carb, which I thought would be nice for a bike that I know I'm gonna have to mess with a little bit. And with that, I got their mixture packing kit, which is those 3 parts that I kind of called out. Sorry, camera focus. So there's the spring, there's the little washer, and there's the O-ring. So probably could just reuse what I've got, but again, I think this was like another $8 or something. So I said, why not? Let's just do it. So that is most of the upgraded parts I got. There's one other upgraded part I got, which is unrelated to all of this, which is I bought a replacement for the choke cable. And there's really nothing wrong with this one, but I was working on a customer's bike, a DX that I've got sitting on the lift. And it's a bike I've had in before. We needed to replace the choke cable because the plastic collar here was broken on his original one, so you couldn't tighten the nut down. Well, we replaced it with just, a Drag Specialties, OE replacement part. And while it does go on there, because the threads on here, not the nut, but the threads are plastic, as soon as you get it tight, it just pops on the threads, and you could just pull on it, and it comes apart. So he was complaining that as the bike would vibrate and he was riding, it kept coming off. So I kind of was like, is there a choke cable out there that replaces all of this with metal parts rather than plastic? And interestingly, while I took a little bit of doing to find one, I actually found one from a place I know really well, which was Prism Supply. So they do a replacement choke cable that does the whole thing out of aluminum. So I bought one for the customer's bike, and I said, you know what? Let's just buy one for this bike too, because it's just kind of a cool part. You know, it's not inexpensive, but I think it solves a problem, certainly for that customer, and I think it's just a cool little upgrade for this bike. So neat little upgrade I'm gonna throw on at the end. So that said, the only other thing I've got here, I think I threw the label away. Hang on, I'll get it, stand by, is just a gasket or a CV Carb rebuild kit from James. So this is their sort of like full kit, and it's a little more expensive than most of the other ones, but it comes with your intake manifold seals, the carb to intake manifold seal, and a couple of other little things that, because this is a full rebuild on the bike, I need all that stuff. So again, if you were just doing the carburetor, you can get a cheaper rebuild kit that has less in it, but just kind of nice. In this case, I wanted as much as I could get, so that's the one I used. So all that said, sorry, I might have repeated myself from stuff I said before, but I think we're finally ready to go ahead and get this thing put back together. So hopefully the hard part is over, which is the cleaning and figuring out what you've got. And now all you've got to do is put it together. And so that really shouldn't be such a big deal. So I guess I will have at it. All right, so I'm working at sort of an awkward angle here, but hopefully I'll be able to give you guys as much detail as I can of putting this together. And hopefully I remember how it all goes together, because I don't really remember what I did, but we'll just go through this part by part and see how it goes. So in any event, I guess I'm just gonna start with getting the jets and all this good stuff in here. So I've got my 2 new jets, and that is the recommended starting sizes that I got from Hammer. So that's 45 and 185. So I'm gonna start by dropping the pilot jet in, and I'll snug that down. All right, that feels good. So now the next piece is the new emulsion tube here. And that will go in conjunction with, I don't really know what this part is called, but this little silver guy sits underneath the emulsion tube. And just by looking at it, obviously you can tell one side of this is gonna come through here and stick up through the, oops, not on the camera, sorry about that. It's gonna come through here and stick up into the bore of the carburetor. So I'm gonna put the flat side of this towards the tube, and this beveled side I'm gonna put down into the carburetor, and that's gonna be the part that sticks through. Let's drop that in, just make sure. Yep, so that went through. Sorry, let me adjust the camera up a little bit here so I stop doing that. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help. All right, so we can see that sticking through there. So I'm gonna take this new emulsion tube and drop that in and snug that down. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like there's something in those threads, which there shouldn't be, because we just cleaned this whole thing. But let's see. No, you know what? I think that's it. I was expecting this to sort of thread all the way down, but it doesn't. That's it. Okay. All right, got that nice and snug. This always makes me nervous, like working with these aluminum CV carburetors, which are just kind of janky, honestly, and they just very want to strip even more than regular aluminum. And then these brass fittings always just makes me nervous, so not too tight. So we've got those 2 pieces in, and then the main jet will screw into here. Okay, All right, so looking at this, I know we've got to do our mixture screw. We could do that next. I'm just looking at the other parts to see what else maybe should go on next. I guess we could do that mixture screw. So let's start by just opening that package. Let's see what we got here. All right. So how does that compare? So it's kind of, I'm still off camera. I'm really struggling today. So obviously you can see this is going to stick down, and then obviously it's got a big thumb screw on here, which is cool. So instead of reusing this old stuff that's on here, I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to pull this spring, O-ring, and washer out of here and try not to lose it all. All right, so I'm going to put the spring on, and I'm going to attempt to pick up this washer. Put that washer on, and then a little O-ring will be the last piece. All right, that doesn't sit on there quite as well as it does on the other one. I guess got to get that spring to compress a little bit, but I'm a little nervous about if this doesn't sit on the larger diameter part of this shaft. I'm nervous it's going to go in crooked. Well, one thing we can do to help that along is lubricate that O-ring a little bit. That might help. Let's see. All right. So, got that. All right. I know this is weird, but this might be easier if I do it this way. All right, well, we're definitely starting to compress the spring. It's unfortunate that I just don't have any way to know if that O-ring seated properly, but oh well. So turn this over, and I'm gonna lightly seat this. Looks like right about there. That's close enough. So that's just about lightly seated there. And so we want to start, in my particular case, at 3 turns open from lightly seated. So I can just count that flat as it goes by. So that's half a turn, 1 turn, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. All right, so that's going to be our starting point. So I do dig this little knob, I gotta tell you. So if you imagine sort of the carb being on here, you can just reach up and turn this with your hand. Obviously you're still gonna have to get up back behind the bowl, but even if you used a screwdriver, it's a lot easier to get at this than get up inside that hole with a teeny little screwdriver. So that's kind of cool. I guess I should have checked to make sure that the bowl is gonna clear. How does this go on? Make sure the bowl's going to clear that. This goes this way. Yeah, you can still get the bowl on and off. It's funny, there's like a little cutout here. Oops, little cutout here that's almost like it's designed for that. Okay, so moving right along, I think it's probably time to check the float, make sure it's adjusted properly, and get it back installed in here. And I did actually make a mistake earlier in the video that I forgot about till now. And there's actually a little arrow on here that shows you which direction to drive the pin out that holds the float in place in the needle. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure I did it the wrong way. And, you know, it was kind of a bear to get it out. And the reason there's a right way and a wrong way is because this post has a smaller opening than this post does. So the pin slides freely here, and on this side, it doesn't. It's interference fit there. So you want to hammer it in or you know, knock it in this way and then go out the other way so you don't push the whole pin through here. So fortunately, I didn't damage this. The hole is still smaller than the pins, so we're okay. But if you do that and you wind up in a situation where the pin will slide freely either way and it's no longer secure, number one, I think that's actually probably fine because like most automotive carburetors, things like that, the pin is not held in by an interference fit. It's just floating there, but you can always take this pin and kind of deform a teeny end of it so that when you put it back in, it'll hang up. So there's a fix to that if you screw it up, but obviously, fortunately in my case, I didn't, so we're good to go. So I'm gonna grab out of our little James package here the needle. Goddamn, carb parts are too small. So let's take a look at this hanger situation and see how this is supposed to work. So it looks like that goes on there. And then I'm gonna put that up in there. All right, okay. So I've got the float and the needle kind of situated here. Oops. And so now I am going to put these in and put this pin in place. All right, so for the moment, I am gonna hold off sending that pin home because I wanna check and make sure that our float is at the correct level. And the way you do that, and you're not gonna be able to really tell on my camera here because the angles make everything weird, but you can sort of see how the float moves here. And obviously, if you put it so it's all the way down, there's even still some play in it as you're kind of compressing I don't know what you'd call it, the end of that needle has some ability to be squished. So basically, you wanna hold the carburetor at between a 15 and 20 degree angle. And this line going across the float should be parallel to the carburetor body. So there's probably a more scientific way to do this, like, you know, take a protractor and stick it in a vise, and then you can just put the carb on the face of that protractor like that. I don't know that I've got one lying around here somewhere, but I know I do have a like magnetic, like laser level thing. I'll grab it and I'll show you, and we'll get a rough idea anyway. All right, so this is what I was talking about. This is a digital angle gauge. This is like a, you know, contractor tool, but I actually use this thing all the time. It's great for setting headlight angles, things like that, and just checking to make sure things are level. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of hold this on here. Can you see that? No, I'm sorry. This is not gonna be easy for you all to see, but I'm gonna tilt this, get into that range there. I'm trying to stick my head over. Yeah, we're good. This is fine. I mean, everywhere sort of in that 15 to 20 range. So it starts to move, but the idea, what you're trying to get at, if I can just back up a second, is you're trying to get the float at the position where that needle is just contacting the seat. So it's not putting any pressure on it, it's not collapsing it at all, it's just contacting it. And you can honestly do it by eye and use the leveler or the protractor, whatever, to confirm. But I feel good about that. If we're, off by a millimeter or something like that, I think it's gonna be fine. So anyway, I'm gonna take my little hammer here and I'm gonna seat that pin. I'm trying to put this in a place where it's not gonna knock a whole bunch of stuff. Sorry, this is gonna be off camera, but you get the idea. A little bit more. Boom. All right. So there we go. That's in. Still operates properly. I'll give it one more little check here. Oops. So I think, unless I'm missing some crazy step here, I think that is what needs to be done inside of here. So I'm just looking at my little takeoff parts here just to make sure I haven't missed anything. Yeah, I think we're looking good. So what I want to do now is go ahead and get the bowl put on. So I'm going to put this aside for the moment. Let's grab a new seal from the kit here. The replacement is blue. I don't know why. All right. Now, got to get the accelerator pump linkage on here. So that's going to go in this little hole here. Oop. So that is one of the things I'm always worried about happening is that little accelerator pump, I don't know what you call that, lever, just falling out. And obviously you don't want this gasket to come out of place either. So actually what I'm gonna do is, let's put a little bit of oil on that seal. Maybe that'll help just to guide it in a little bit better. Actually, why don't I just take it out, put a little oil on the whole thing. Like nothing crazy, just trying to help it help it glide into place rather than getting caught or snagged or torn or whatever. So hopefully a little oil will help. Now, I don't want this to fall out, and it obviously will if I flip it over. So the idea here is, it's already kind of moving, to that part doesn't really want to stay. All right. So now I wish I had a third hand. Fixed one thing and nothing comes loose. All right, there we go. So I want to get that lever in its proper home. There we go. And I'm just checking the gasket, make sure it's not getting pinched anywhere. That looks good. So now I'm going to flip it, and hopefully should just be able to put our screws in. So this is where I mentioned I've got some replacement hardware. And I'm sure I've said it I don't know how many times already, I am certainly no expert when it comes to carburetor stuff, but one thing I've certainly had experience with is the original screws that come on these. It's very likely that either you accidentally stripped them with a screwdriver or the person before you already did, and they're gonna be a mess. So swapping this hardware out for little Allen head screws is, I think, a great little upgrade. And I'll mention too, CV Performance sells replacement hardware like Allen head hardware for basically all the screws on this thing. So there's 3 screws here that hold the diaphragm for the accelerator pump in, There's some more on top. Like, they sell Allen head screws for everything. I opted to just do these 4 because these are the 4 that I think generally are the ones that you can run into trouble with. And I think the reason for that is because these are the ones that get removed the most. So obviously you're going to take them all off if you're doing a rebuild on the carburetor, but you know, if you're in a situation where you got to be changing jets and you're going back and forth, or you have to adjust your float, or you want to just clean out the bowl, there's a whole bunch of jobs that involve taking the bowl off but don't involve doing anything else. And I think that's why these screws have a tendency to get a little overworked because, well, they're the ones that see the most action. So I'm just going to go around and try and tighten this evenly. And this is, again, another one where you really don't want to hulk on these things because you really don't want to pull those threads because, well, then you're buying a new carburetor. All right. So we're all snug down. I'm going to give each one a little snug turn with the wrench facing the other way. All right. So that's our bowl put on, and I guess now it's time to move on probably to the accelerator pump. All right, so I'm gonna put the diaphragm in place here, and maybe it's intuitive, maybe it's not, but there's a little, I'll show you on the old one, there's a little lip on one side of this and not on the other, so that lip goes down into that groove so that this seals. So we've got that, and then on the top side, there is a little opening right here, and there's sort of like a flat square O-ring that goes in there. So that should be in here. And it looks like there are 2 of the same one. Not really sure why. Dump those out. Stick that guy in there. Yep, that looks correct. So I'm going to take this. Oh, and one more piece is the spring, and I've got a replacement for that as well. So we'll put our spring in place and hopefully get this seated down without that O-ring falling out. All right, I think we're good to go. Take my screws, get them started. All right. So that's that. Now, one little thing I wanted to test here, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer. I was having an issue before. I was just kind of playing with this, and the throttle blade wouldn't open all the way. And I'm pretty sure, based on kind of futzing around with it a little bit, the reason for that was because the accelerator pump was not connected. So what was happening was, and I'm just going to check and see if it opens all the way now. Yep. Perfect. So that's what I thought was going to happen. So what was happening here was, if you can see, this plastic piece right here, this black piece, is the linkage for the accelerator pump lever. And as the throttle blade starts opening, at some point, you know, it's like a third of the way down or so, that accelerator pump linkage stops moving because the accelerator pump lever bottoms out, and then it allows this rod here to pass through as the spring compresses. Well, when that accelerator pump isn't connected on the bottom there, there's nothing to stop this black plastic piece from turning, and it binds on here and doesn't allow this spring to compress, so the throttle will only get, I don't know, like maybe about 80% open, 90% open. But now we are perfect. So it was just a check I wanted to make sure that I was right about, and it looks like we're good. So one other piece here before we move up to the top, let me orient myself here, is to put the drain screw back in. So I'm looking at my various items here, and let me just move some of this stuff out of the way. I've got these 4 screws, which we'll not be reusing because we replaced them. So I've got a small screw, 2 long screws, these ones that are for the top, if I'm not mistaken, and then this spring, which is for whichever one of these screws was for the idle adjustment. I'm pretty sure is where that spring came from. So that leaves just one more piece here for the bottom, which is this guy. Now, if I remember correctly, in my little takeoff part pile over here, I've got an O-ring that I'm 99% sure came out of that groove. So before I put this screw back in, I've got to find an O-ring in the kit that matches that size. So it's definitely not either of these. So let's see what's in this bag. So I'll give you a little side note here, remember, the old thing of like, you're taking something apart and you're putting it back together and you wind up with extra pieces at the end, you're screwed up. It's a pretty good way of checking stuff, when you're just doing a, tear down and rebuild. But it kind of bums me out that these gasket kits, and I guess in an effort to make them a little bit more universal, they have so much extra stuff in them all the time that you really don't know if you've got the right, if you've done everything you're supposed to do. All right, so anyway, that said, let's sort of make a comparison here. None of these look exactly right, unfortunately. That's all I've got. So again, it looks like these two look the same, I think. Yeah. Just pop one of them on. I mean, it's the only real possibility. Well, I guess that's meant to be it. It's not quite the same size. It looks like an original one might have been thicker. I don't know. This is one of those games of, do you use the new part that might not be right, or do you use the old part that might be in need of replacement? Well, in this case today, we are going to try one of these new O-rings first. And if we start pouring fuel out of here, then, well, we know we got a problem with this O-ring. So I guess we're just going to give it a try. Well, it certainly feels like that O-ring is seating. So I'm going to call that good, and let's hope for the best. So put those aside. I guess, I'm sorry, I'm thinking out loud here a little bit. This little O-ring here would have been a replacement for the mixture screw. We've got some duplicates, and then there's one larger O-ring left. There's also 2 big O-rings in here and a different base gasket. Don't know why. Oh, you know what? Well, maybe you all noticed it before I did. We forgot a part. So the boot for the accelerator pump. So we're going to have to take some degree of this all back apart. I guess we're just going to have to take the bowl off again so I can get that boot in there. Whoops. I told you, watch somebody else's video, not mine, if you are trying to learn how to do work on a CV carburetor. I think there's got to be over 1 million CV carburetors out there in the world. And there's definitely a ton of videos from people who are much bigger experts on them than I am. So, we should have done the first time. We can take this boot and slide it onto the accelerator pump rod. Okay, now, boot is in place. Accelerator pump operates. Throttle opens. Let's see if I can get that little boot just to seat down on there. That'll make me happier. Yeah, there we go. A little crooked. Okay, good enough. All right. So now looking at our parts, there are just a few more weird things in this rebuild kit that I just don't know what they are. I mean, I suppose I could look at this name here. O-ring float bowl, carburetor drain, O-ring carburetor drain screw, O-ring float bowl to carburetor body, 2 of those. O-ring adjustment screw, low speed mixture, so we found that one. Gasket air cleaner to carburetor, yep, so that's there too. I don't know if you could see that, there it is. Plug air cleaner cover, okay. I was wondering, I still don't know what these, well, maybe that's what these are. Maybe these are air cleaner cover plugs, I don't know. But there's these 2 rubber round deals in here. And then this looks like a plug to me, also made of rubber. I have no idea what these are for. There's gotta be something. Maybe it has to do with like the assembly with the OE air cleaner, that maybe there's like a plug for a vent or something that you might need to plug. I don't know. I don't know what these parts are. What's weird is that it lists on here the plug air cleaner cover. It lists there being 2 of them. So my guess is it's these, not this, but I don't know. I really don't know. It also says there's the gasket air cleaner carburetor. There's supposed to be 2. Oh, there are 2. Look at that. Holy shit. So this is sort of like a, I don't know, you can do it twice kind of rebuild kit. Sorry, I keep going off camera. So there are 2. There you go. You can see them there. Okay, anyway, enough messing around with that. Let's, I guess, flip this thing over and start working on getting the top assembled. So that's going to be, let's see what we've got in terms of parts here. So we've used all that stuff. So we've got our new needle, new spring, new slide and diaphragm there. And it's got a new little plastic one of these inside of there too. So we're not going to reuse that. But looks like we're getting towards the end here, so we'll get that put in, and then we'll just start to get all the external linkages and stuff put back on, and this will be ready when we get our motor put together. All right, so here's the new slide. Pull that retainer out. So, as I understand it, the slide should only fit one way. That is correct. So that drops down in there. And then next will be, I guess, the needle. Let's open that up. And that's gonna go in there. I'm gonna put the retainer in. Okay, we got that. And our new spring. All right, so before I do the spring, I guess what I want to do here is So the cap here, I mean, it's the same all the way around, but I'm gonna put it on the same way it was. There's this little boss here in one corner of it. That is gonna be going this corner where the throttle linkage is, so it's gonna go on like this. But before I put that in, I'm just gonna see if I can get this to seat down in here before. Maybe if I push it all the way like that. Yeah, that's gonna work much better. All right. All right. So that's seated in the groove now. So I'm going to put the spring in. And then I'm going to grab the seal, knowing that the groove is seated properly. I just want to take one more look. Yep, that looks good. Before I let go with my thumb on the slide, and now I know that's seated properly in the groove. So let's see what we got here. Looks like these 3 screws that are the same are going to be as I thought for the top. All right, so those are just kind of tentatively in place there. Now, before I tighten them all the way down, I want to get this 4th screw in, but to do that, I've got to get this cable bracket back on here. So I've got 3 screws left, and I did figure out, although these 2 look almost exactly the same, one of them has like a through slot for a flathead screwdriver, and that's definitely the idle adjustment. So I'm gonna just put that in here along with this spring and just get it started. Hopefully that's right. And then this should go on something like this. Something like this. So get that one up there started. And then this little short guy, the 1 screw left, it's going to be for the side here. Get that guy started. Tighten that one down, and now I can come across and tighten all the cap screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then our idle screw, I don't know what the right starting adjustment there is, but I guess I'll probably go read somewhere where is a good place to start this, but I'm guessing just where it starts to open the throttle is probably a reasonably good starting place, but I will confirm that before we test fire this thing. So that is basically our carburetor fully rebuilt. The only thing left in terms of the new stuff is this choke bracket, which truthfully, it's got a whole bunch of screws here. Maybe are replacements for something I already did. I don't know, but I'm not sure I want to use this or not. So I think for the time being, I'm going to leave this off, and we'll come back to this once we've got the bike back and we start to look at how this mounts up and where I want to route the choke cable and kind of what's going to work best. I've got a couple different options for mounting the choke. So we'll let this sit to the side for the moment, and get rid of all the trash and packaging. And we will just, I guess, put this carb on the shelf and wait to do the rest of our motor rebuild. So that is an amateur carb rebuild done by a professional. Hopefully this was a little bit of entertainment for you while we're in between other things, and you got to watch me struggle through something that I really know nothing about. So I'm gonna get back to doing what I know how to do and work on some customer bikes the rest of this week. And hopefully we will have another video on the chopper coming soon where we either complete the engine work or keep working away on the chassis. Don't know, but I guess you'll just have to stick around to find out. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.